The following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark. Old McKitty had a farm, E-I-E-I-Boo! Howdy, Wolfpack. You know, it's been a while since we had a classic scary Scarecrow story on this show, but what better tale to do than none other than R.L. Stine's first Scarecrow? I mean, has it really been that long since we tackled this gimmick?
Oh my goodness!
Huh, I guess it has. Well, the good news is that we're in for a scrumptious harvest. I'm a huge fan of Scarecrow horror stories, since they tend to be ultra creepy and provide nicely designed monsters haunting our nightmares. The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight is also one of the Goosebumps saga's most recognizable titles ever, thanks to this cool concept. Sadly, I must admit that this is another case where the story's adaptation totally outclasses the book, as the novel is not exactly Stine's best. I hate to say it, but the Scarecrow book is boring. It spends most of its time building up to the monsters, yet drags out many pointless scenes, long setups, dumb side quests, and feels very dull whenever the horror isn't present. Thankfully, the episode does a decent patch job, as the real reason kids love this title is because the TV series grants the Crowmen well-deserved justice. Being a TV series and not a two-parter for once, the showrunners fix a ton of the book's issues and compress it into a more manageable ride to wow fans. And considering the haystack's worth of requests we got for this one, I'd say it worked, as lots of Stine fans love this episode too. The episode is vastly superior than the novel, however, it remains mostly faithful to Stine's original blueprint, with only minimal changes and some additions. Many of them are great, and some are not so good. This episode carries Stine's traditional formula, yet does make great use out of it, and the show staff took full advantage of the book's horror world, delivering us an unforgettable journey where naive kid heroes duke it out with Batman's foe. Not to jump ahead, but I do recall liking this episode, and do agree with the crowd that the episode is way better. The obvious reason being Goosebumps went all out on making the Scarecrows as horrific as possible, and they are the biggest pro folks remember from this terror tale. These ghouls became one of Stine's most iconic monsters, with fans praising them highly alongside the Deadhouse zombies, the plant people, and the pumpkin heads. I frequently see this episode placed on many top 10 lists, mainly because of the wicked beasts. But does featuring cool monsters really make an episode as a whole good? Do fans value this as scary on the surface, but not what it's stuffed with? Well, that's what we plan to find out. We loved this as kittens, but does it still hold up well to us as adults? Did the showrunners harvest us a freakish feast of pure Goosebumps fear? Or has the episode spoiled thanks to the passage of time pecking away at it like rabid crows? Time to grab your tools and holy crosses, cause we're about to enter the cursed cornfield and see. This is our wacky riff view on the fan favorite Goosebumps misadventure, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. So, our episode opens up in the gorgeous countryside of Ohio, Canada, where we meet our main characters. Two sassy, adventurous city kids visiting their grandparents' farm over summer break, named Jody and Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
They're living Southside all summer, hoping to bond with their loving kinfolk and catch up on that country fun. However, all is not as it seems, as their grandparents and farmhands act different from when they last met.
You got the whole summer for frog catching.
I like those frogs. You shouldn't catch them, because if you do, the scarecrows might just end up catching you.
Spoilers! Yeah, the show wastes no time quickly establishing our creepy setting. The farmers all seem uneasy. The first day literally takes place on a dark and stormy night, and we're introduced to Stanley, the creepy farmhand, acting ominously as he warns them about sinister scarecrows looming over them. We'll get to the totally unimportant Mr. Stanley soon, but I do love how the show quickly moves into the horror and gets very scary fast. The kids are so stoked to be here and have no clue of the dangers which await.
The sooner you get to bed, the sooner you get to wake up for breakfast. And you know what that means. Chocolate chip pancakes.
Oh boy, I love chocolate chip pancakes. Did somebody say pancakes?
Chocolate chip pancakes.
Stop it!
So as you can guess, the scarecrows are revealed to be alive, as the reason the farmers act fearful is because they have to survive every night, hiding from the hexed straw men invading their land. Honestly, the plot instantly gets creepy when we see the grandparents routinely fortify their house to dodge the boogeymen, implying that this has been going on for some time, and with their grandkids visiting, they're now more scared than ever.
The windows! Did you bolt them shut?
Yes, the windows too. Come on now. It's just the wind. That's the only reason it's not out there. It's just been blown off its post.
This only gets more unsettling when a crow man greets us with a scary face. For those of you who question why adults still dread this show, well, try imagining that thing coming for your family at dark every night. Suddenly, it's not so silly. The scarecrows dominate every scene they're in and own this land, where it's up to our kid heroes to solve the mystery and save the day, or die trying. Nightmare fuel at full. For the most part, the story acts out the basic beats of the book, with only minor changes to the cast's physical appearances, but nothing too blatant. There's a few alterations to the plot events, but nothing which destroys Stine's original narrative. But you know a change that'll really piss you off? The show deletes the from the title The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. The next day, the kids slowly start to realize how much the farm has changed. Their grandparents aren't as fun as they used to be, they aren't allowed to wander too far on the land anymore, some small restrictions are given, they no longer do last year's fun activities, and worst of all, they get no chocolate chip pancakes.
Cornflakes? What about your famous pancakes?
I don't want to live!
We also get to meet the farmhands, Stanley and his son Styx. Stanley is played by Jake Griffin, the noble fireman spirit from Are You Afraid of the Dark's The Tale of the Fire Ghost. Sadly, he's not as cool as the heroic ghost who slayed a fire demon, as Stanley is a different breed of supernatural. And Styx is played by the douchey emo kid from Final Destination 3. Meaning he's just as snarky and close to death here as he is as Ian.
Yeah, well, seeing is believing.
These two are pretty vital characters, as they have more complex ties to the kid heroes. since more is revealed about them over time. In short, I sincerely think this cast is fun, thanks to the acting in this being some of the better performing of Goosebumps. Sometimes they do overkill a few scenes, but otherwise the showrunners didn't cheap out on us for once, as the human characters do keep the story engaging, until the monsters take over. A colossal power-up over the book. So props to you, show, for getting good child actors who made Stine's blank slates more dynamic.
Nice.
Tragically, our kid heroes are just as bored as they were in the page, since they get barely any fun and soon annoy each other.
Come on! I can't find it! 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 Come on! I can't find it!
Stop it!
While getting lost in the field looking for the world's smallest baseball, they get jump scared by Stanley, who formally introduces the Scarecrows. He warns them that the Stickmen are alive, and act as the farm's magic guardians, constantly scaring away everything which enters their domain, and by nightfall, come to life to ensure that job gets done.
I made him walk one time.
You made him walk.
Sure enough. I did it once last month, then again about a week before you got here. A scarecrow walks at midnight.
He said it! He said it!
Unfortunately, the kids don't buy it, but we know the truth is out there. So now we have to address Stanley's character, because he's very vital to the story. He's kind of a controversial character among fans. Now, the show doesn't outright say it, but it's strongly implied that Stanley might be mentally challenged. He has what's suggested to be a development disorder, as in both the show and book, he acts very childlike and slow-witted. And this isn't just BS theories, the show hints at this itself.
Mark, we both know Stanley's a little slow. Sometimes he says things he doesn't mean. Things that make no sense at all. Stanley, are you confused again?
No.
Yes, sirree, Bob. R.L. Stine has his very first mentally handicapped character. Hooray, representation. Now, this is very important to bring up since Stine basically uses this implied disability to justify some of Stanley's actions in the narrative, as well as make him out to be a kind-hearted simpleton like Lenny from Of Mice and Men, who means well and has a childish innocence behind his eerie attitude. Yet it also teases a morally gray side to him, present all throughout this arc. I've got nothing against this, and believe it or not, the show portrays him in a sympathetic light, but it does feel a tad weak how the author tries to explain away his bizarreness and later sketchy choices thanks to his handicap.
Sorry, retarded.
Oh, that's okay then.
You don't know any better.
Oh, bless your heart.
Jeez, didn't you hear me a second ago? I'm retarded.
Oh, you're just curious. Well, let me show you how everything works down there.
If it seems like I'm overblowing this, well, wait till we get to what arrives later. Won't lie, a long portion of this tale is basically the kids questioning what's going on here, and building up to the Scarecrows coming for them, as they get too close to the truth. This was something that really weakened the book, as it has Stine's infamous fluff substituting for tension. While the episode totally mends that by revealing how the monsters are real early on, and has us dreading the kids ultimately getting closer to the danger lurking in the shadows. The Scarecrows have the Jaws effect, where they slowly grow dreadful through subtle fear. It's real decent suspense because the kids try to logically handwave the spooky stuff off, as Stanley is an unreliable source, and the kids have a rep of prank wars with Styx the Jokester. I do think the show upgrades the book's terror perfectly, since we're easing our way towards the scarecrows, but the monsters are affecting everything that occurs in this. Plus, revealing the monsters are alive adds more tension because we fear the innocent kids getting closer. It's a simple flavor of tension, but super effective. Jody believes Styx is trolling them because he's teased them before, yet he does warn them to ensure they avoid trailing alone on the farm.
I know it was you on the field, okay? Just knock it off!
Hey, I told you this ain't no place for city kids. You better just turn around and go home, or it's too late.
Eventually, it grows clear that the farmers know of the haunting hours. I'm skipping ahead, but only thanks to plot convenience. Basically, Stanley actually did bring the crowmen to life thanks to handy-dandy dark magic, which he bought from Sardo's magic shop. Special sales every summer. Discount Cletus used a magic text to make their scarecrows special servants to help them around the farm, where the strawmen did small jobs, harvested the crops, did anything Stanley commanded, and most importantly, scared everything away from the area. However, as per norm with dark forces, things went south real quickly. The scarecrows turned against their creators because they couldn't tell the difference between what to attack, from pesky crows to unwanted human beings. That's what happens when you don't have a brain.
If I only had a brain.
So now, they'll kill everything they see, and Stanley doesn't know how to control them. Oh, if only he too had a brain.
If I only had a brain.
While a horrific setup, this is where we get to the real controversy behind Stanley. It's not the fact that he has a disorder, but really, his flat-out villainous behavior. Stanley is pretending he still has control over the scarecrows, and acting like he's purposefully ordering them to threaten the farm, so he can exploit the grandparents into giving him whatever he wants, and have his way. He's covering his own hide and trying to blackmail his kind-hearted elderly employers to make himself happy and pretend he's keeping the murderous monsters at bay.
What an asshole!
Yeah, Stanley is a character I have mixed feelings on, in both this and especially the book. Now, I have to warn the crybabies out there who get triggered by everything that no, it's not because he's mentally challenged. I have nothing against his disorder, but I do have to say that Stanley's kind of a dick. While it was an honest mistake he messed up a spell, the fact that he basically threatens the family who took him in and takes over the farm does make him seem a bit hard to like. Believe it or not, he's actually worse in the novel, to the point where I would label him as the villain. In the literature, he acts out of anger like a brat and refuses to atone for his errors. The episode focuses a tad more on his sympathetic side, which is good, since I would absolutely despise this guy if they didn't give us more to root for. But I hate Book Stanley, and while the episode does offer him more depth, they did not entirely purge his darker qualities. I mean, can you really say him being slow really justifies his willing dick habits like this?
You got the whole summer for frog catching.
I like those frogs. You shouldn't catch them, because if you do, the scarecrows might just end up catching you.
Everyone help yourselves.
Cherry? I don't get it. We always have apple. Yeah, it's Grandpa Kurt's favorite.
Cherry's my favorite.
Cherry is it's a nice change.
What about your famous pancakes?
I'm afraid I forgot to buy chocolate chips.
What an asshole!
For those wondering why Stine wants us to like him, well, he tries to hand-wave his bad attitude away due to his mental disorder. Because he's so childish and slow, we're meant to see him as a well-meaning doofus who only wanted to help, yet only became mean since he's tired of everyone looking down on him, and he brought the Scarecrows to life to impress people by showing that he's not the idiot everyone thinks he is. It's a decent idea, but sadly, Book Stanley was just way too unlikable to forgive. And his nasty side made you hate him. He was easily the worst character of the novel, and Stine's attempts at sympathizing with him was not very well written, since he crossed a few too many lines to want to love him. My biggest gripe with the adaptation is that they didn't quite remove all of his bad habits in an effort to redeem this character, or at least make him deeper than on the page. Luckily, I do think the episode did try their best to dust up this guy, and there are some genuinely nice moments where TV Stanley can be liked. He's still a bit of a dick, but he's miles better than his book counterpart. For starters, we do see that he genuinely cherishes Jody and Mark, doing his best to keep them off the Scarecrow's kill sites. And he doesn't simply dump all his work onto others, but carries on the farm job despite some issues with his employers. He gets some other sad moments later, but we gotta wait until we're in finale territory. In short, Stanley's a good character in concept, but depending on the viewer, how likable he is gets put up for debate. I do appreciate the show version more than the book, since his nobler side being in a better light adds that gray morality, which makes you question if he's really good or just too misguided by selfish evil.
So much easier to see the world in black and white. Gray. I don't know what to do with gray.
So yeah, to this day, I remain mixed on Stanley, which is the only element that harms my score, since he can get pretty mean. Not helping matters is that some of his scary jerk qualities can also get quite silly. He's so mean that he doesn't even let Grandpa tell his scary stories.
Hey Grandpa, how about a story?
Yeah, I've been waiting all year to hear one of Grandpa Kurt's stories. Make it a good terrifying
Yeah,
one.
real scary.
All right, now let me think.
I don't like those stories. They make me scared.
Aren't you like 40? Nobody show him the haunting hour, or he might die. But the true tragedy here is Jody and Mark aren't having any fun. Nothing makes a vacation worse than nightmares, where we actually get a good scary fake-out dream sequence where Jody's attacked by her crowman grandparents. And it's disturbing. Holy smokes, is that horrifying. The makeup job on the Scarecrow grandparents is somehow creepier than the actual monsters. That blend between human and Scarecrow just looks so ghastly. This dream scene, while totally pointless, is almost scarier than the nightmare from Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns. Truly twisted stuff. As always, the true heroes behind Goosebumps are their makeup artists and practical effects. But yeah, it was all just a dream, except the monster was there the whole time. I guess the Scarecrow was using his nightmare powers.
I think you need a little more.
We cut to the next morning where the kids try to have some fun with a bike race. In the book, the kids actually rode horses, since this animal-less farm did have animals they tended to. But alas, Goosebumps couldn't splurge for trained stallions.
Money!
Though this minimal change remains faithful to the book, where the kids have innocent fun until Jody gets jump scared.
I'm gonna win. I'm gonna.
I wanted more than your death and Gotham's destruction, but you forced my hand.
Nah, the kids knock the Crowman's block off, believing that Styx is pranking them like old times. They're soon aided by Stanley, who remains cryptic. But as I said earlier, I do like how Stanley does genuinely care for the kids, since he does prioritize saving them to prevent the Scarecrow's assault.
Come on, we better get you back to the house. Leave the bikes! I'll get them later.
Definitely a heroic gesture, making you question where Stanley stands.
So much easier to see the world in black and white. Gray, I don't know what to do with gray.
Well, I think it's high time we finally talk about what you desire the most. The Scarecrows. You know, late in this review that's all about the killer Scarecrows. The Scarecrows are absolutely sinister creatures. They are surprisingly kept low-key and downplayed up until it's time for them to get dangerous. We don't get clear shots of the monsters moving in at first, as they're always obscured or hidden. However, their presence is definitely felt all throughout. They hold an ominous feel over the farmland, and even when we see them lifelessly strung up on the field, they look so unsettling, giving off the image that they're constantly watching and can attack at any moment. I was always disappointed how most of Stine's creatures never looked like the image on his books, since the Scarecrow of the novel looked outright demonic and seemed alive even before it walked. Thankfully, the episode's designs for these Scarecrows have their own unique feel. The show's monsters look as if they're decayed skulls, and get treated like boogeymen roaming the night, granting them that classic monster vibe. To this day, the Scarecrows still appear terrifying, thanks to their inhuman-like movements, sinister appearances, and the fact that the only thing they think about is killing anyone on their land. They're essentially savage guard dogs that broke off their leash, and now everyone is their target. Though you might notice that sometimes the straw men are out and about during daylight, as in before midnight. Yeah, the title is a big fat lie. The Scarecrows operate by gargoyle rules. They can move and feel alive only in darkness. From the pitch black night to the very light shady spots behind the crops, the Crowmen are only free and can move if in dark shadows. That explains why we see them fully capable in the night scenes, and how, despite attacking Jody during her race, it was alive until freezing up once she rolled it in the setting sunlight.
Logical.
The Scarecrow walks at midnight since it needs total darkness to get around easily, which explains why they haven't killed everyone yet or taken over the farm successfully. Shockingly, this also makes them even creepier, since because they're so well hidden, the kids and even viewers kind of questions whether a spooky Scarecrow is spying on them or not. It's so scary how you can't always tell when the Scarecrow stalks within the crops. Yeah, how much you want to bet she'll spot Bailey Madison on the other side? The adaptation ramps up the monsters' dread by removing all their goofy moments from the novel, reimagining them as slasher killers, and having a ball playing them up as almost mythical creatures of the night, which reforges them into something more. The Scarecrows are without a doubt fantastic scary monsters due to their boogeyman/predator-like ferociousness, and the episode reminding you that they can and will strike anytime the kids feel safe. Of course, the episode still builds up to the kids realizing the Scarecrows want to evict them, so Jody presumes Styx is trolling them some more, gaining a taste for revenge.
I'm gonna get you, Styx.
Nothing personal.
Oh man, I think I know where this is going. No, instead they plan to Scooby prank him with a jump Scarecrow by having Mark dress up as Dr. Crane to punk him while Jody lures him out. And considering how well this worked out for the dynamic Dunderheads in You Can't Scare Me, you can guess how sweet this'll go.
Get back there. You're gonna ruin everything. Mark.
Wait a second. If you're there, and I'm here, and Istanbul is somewhere in this general area, then who the hell is that?
Big shock, a real Scarecrow intervenes, but she's soon saved by male Applejack.
Go on! Get out here, go on!
Rocks? Rocks? Are you serial? The Scarecrows, these badass demons fueled by satanic magic, are defeated by a kid hucking a few rocks at them?
It was a big rock.
Shut up, Croc. I'm still pissed at you for dating Baby Doll. Upon saving her, Styx finally confesses the truth. His paw Stanley messed up the spell in his dark magic book and never really had control over his creations. His Pops only wanted to help use the Scarecrows for good, but it went wrong. Now they've turned against them, consumed only by the unholy evil of the book. The entire farm knows, but they only kept it a secret to protect the kids from attracting the wrath of the demons. All Stanley desired was respect, but he's only pretended to be in control to prevent the fam from blaming him for causing another fine mess of trouble. In big dramatic fashion, Stanley overhears, spasses out, and runs away.
Dad!
Children! This leads me back to my mixed feelings on this guy. Now, the book and show do have different reactions from Stanley. In the novel, once Stanley knows the jig is up, he acts like an even bigger prick by summoning the Scarecrows to kill everyone out of anger. Yes, this guy, who we're meant to feel for, has a meltdown and tries to doom his entire family and friends.
You what?
It's supposedly a last-ditch effort for him to assert his authority over the Scarecrows, but unsurprisingly it leads to even more hell as they stop obeying him completely and are now fully unleashed. By the way, the show also deletes the stupid segment where Mark, still dressed as a scarecrow, bumps into and mimics the monsters, sort of acting like they're Scarecrow King, for like a few pages, then they get back to running from them like nothing happened.
You what?
I am very happy this moronic bit was cut from the show, because it was entirely pointless and super unfunny. Despite the awful cons of the literature, I actually believe the show improves this part. On the episode, Stanley does still try to prove himself, but he uses the spellbook to shut down the Scarecrows forever, rather than turn psycho. TV Stanley realizes he was wrong and actually tries to fix his mess. And all the over-the-top antics get replaced by a more serious dramatic climax. Do I even need to say why that works better than the book's path? Stanley attempts to reverse the curse, but oh no, he accidentally resurrects all the Scarecrows, where they form an army.
If I only had a brain.
And And this is legit the coolest part of the whole episode. A massive armada of strawmen lays siege upon the farm, where the cast ends up fighting Dawn of the Dead style.
No, Dad! You read the wrong check!
You're in my world now.
There's nothing to fear but fear itself.
It goes without saying that this is the most epic element of the whole plot, and why it's worth watching. The Scarecrow siege is one of the best final fights of Goosebumps, as the show totally embraces the insanity of it all and throws out everything. We got a freaky dark farmland, screaming children, high suspense, extreme music, and naturally, those psychotic scarecrows tearing apart this whole arena. This climax really makes all the build-up worth it, and is truly an epic experience from Goosebumps. It's safe to say that this is what made the Scarecrow so amazing. Oh geez, these guys are stronger than the aliens from Signs! Gotta love Goosebumps paying homage to zombie classics. The final stand at the barn is almost cooler with demon scarecrows ripping it apart. The heroes get swarmed as Stanley spazzes out. But luckily, Mark saves the day, where he finally gets to use the wheat thrasher.
Fatality.
But he just loved playing with that wheat thresher. Always playing with that wheat thresher!
So, this final fight played much differently in the book. In the original, as soon as the heroes get surrounded, Styx actually saves them all by lighting the dollies on fire.
How about a little fire, Scarecrow?
It was a darkly hilarious demise for the monsters, but it was also sorta anticlimactic, since it raised the question, why nobody ever did that before?
If I only had a brain.
While it does suck that Goosebumps never sets people on fire, I personally thought the Thrasher mowing them down was an equally brutal death, and having Mark finish them off actually gave him something to do in his own story. Jody and Mark didn't have much of an arc in the novel, rarely doing anything themselves at all, but the show truly does fix that, since Jody is the one who solves the mystery, and Mark ends up saving the day. Finally doing something he wanted to do on vacay. It's a small addition, but a good one, since it gave the heroes genuine heroic resolve. Plus, it grants the Scarecrows more of a badass blaze of glory, since it took a heavy machine slicing and dicing them up to truly end them. Much more epic than the joke ending they got. You gotta admit, this was a more dignified defeat for a Scarecrow than a taser to the face. So that's it. The day is saved. The Scarecrows are sawdust, Stanley mends fences with the fam, the Hex book's fired, everyone's happily reunited, and best of all, the kids finally receive chocolate chip pancakes. But just when everything's coming up Millhouse, Stanley accidentally reads an unburnt Slender page summoning a new monster to life. A Decepticon!
Autobots raise their power to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. Everyone died. The end.
Yep, the fam survived Scarecrow onslaughts only to die by a Thrasher bulldozing their house. Oh, that Stanley.
Always playing with that wheat thresher.
This is the last blatant change from the book, the twist ending. In the literature, Stanley refuses to learn his dang lesson and purposefully uses his magic book again, only to bring a stuffed bear to life, which eats everyone.
If I only had a brain.
I kind of prefer the show's ending due to how extra it goes. I mean, a bear coming to life and attacking the kids seems way too grounded and down to earth for Goosebumps. Now, a transformer conquering them is silly, but so ludicrous that it's kind of funny. Plus, a mecha is much bigger than a bear, so it does pack some greater terror. The only negative I have is that you can clearly see the driver. Go! But other than that 2 seconds, I remember it a metric ton more than the average bear. Anywho, that was the end of the beloved Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. And while I love the Haunting Hour Scarecrow more, this is honestly pretty sick. In spite of my nitpicks and criticisms, I totally agree that this is still a top-tier Goosebumps classic. The book was nothing special to write home about. We only remember it as one of Stine's icons for the badass cover art, but a blessed story. The show takes all the best blueprints and concepts from the novel and makes them outstanding. This is 100% a case where the episode overshadows the source material, because it transformed it into something incredible, serving as a grim fable for the kids thanks to its terror, and the adults thanks to its insane levels of fun. Even better, this episode is mostly faithful to the book, yet fixes so many of the issues it had. It shaves off the fluff, adds a stronger sense of dread, omits the stupid scenes, and made the characters way more interesting than on the paper. It's not often I compliment this, but the human drama was pretty compelling for once. The monsters don't totally step over the kid heroes for a change, and I did want to see them survive this nightmare. While Goosebumps has always been a cheap show,
Money!
the production value for this tale was supremely impressive, as they make great use out of this farmland setting, and the isolated area adds this grim unease of being trapped with vicious predators, hunting the kids like animals, and posing as a looming threat over everyone. Sadly, it's not winning a perfect score from me on account of Stanley. While the writers do their best trying to make this guy better than his book counterpart, they didn't quite purge all his negative traits, and kept in some scenes that did make Stanley dickish. I think what's really missing is that there's no scene where he atones for his immoral behavior. He never says I'm sorry or apologizes to the grandparents, or even does much to make up for throwing everyone in danger. He doesn't gain much reason behind his actions in spite of causing the main conflict. I'm not asking for a whole backstory trilogy of Stanley, but maybe some kind of redemption instead of him cowering in the background while the kids save his grown ass. I'm just saying, this character does kind of drag down the story, since he's a little too mean and toxic to root for, and him dooming them again doesn't do him any favors. Again, Stine relies way too much on his of mice and men persona, attempting to justify that, but there's only so much you can shield him from before you start to question him.
Gray. I don't know what to do with Gray.
Thankfully, even the writers got that message, as they did try to upgrade him. Yet since his flaws were built into him in the first place, I still remain mixed on him. However, what truly makes this episode great is naturally the Scarecrows. These monsters are phenomenal, and absolutely breathe life into this tale. They are frightening, awesome, barbaric, and wonderfully brought into existence thanks to the show's artists. The money and hard work at making R.L. Stine's Straw Dogs a living nightmare clearly shows on the big screen. They are the real reason why this episode works, and remains enjoyed for generations. How can you not love these twisted stick figures? The show turns them into fierce monsters that go bump in the night, and made their murderous impulses to scare everything off the farm haunting. This episode not only has outstanding villains, but also a radical climax, one of the best in the series. It's nearly as boss as The Perfect School. Overall, I think this episode is far from perfect, but it's simply a fun creature feature horror. It's a dumb fun horror story with awesome villains and a ludicrous plot, which definitely shows the tasty crops Goosebumps can grow. So, I grant this sinister Scarecrow story a gold skull. Sadly, not a perfect score, since it does have some flaws. I mean, come on guys, it's competing with the Haunted Mask and Perfect School. They can't all win perfect victories. Luckily, I do highly recommend this one, putting it in the same rank as Awesome Ants or Welcome to Dead House. Simple, yet terrific monster movies. You'll certainly want to hang out with these scare bros, cause they'll take you to a field of screams. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, or just tune in for more terror here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and... the Tractortron mows at 12 p.m.
Why, if I had a brain, I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain. I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or in pain.
With the thoughts you'd be thinking you could be another Lincoln if you only had a brain.
Oh, I could tell you why the ocean's near the shore. I could think of things I never thought before, and then I'd sit and think some more. I would not be just a nuffin', my head all full of stuffin', my heart all full of pain. I would dance and be merry, life would be a ding-a-dairy if I only had a brain.
Chocolate chip pancakes.